The moment my brother's engagement turned into a mirror of my deepest wounds, I became the scar no one wanted to see. It was a day draped in celebration, but for me, it was a silent unraveling, each glance and whisper carving deeper into a hurt I'd carried for years. I remember the cold sting of the air conditioner despite the room being packed wall to wall with guests. Laughter buzzed in the background, the clinking of glasses, the shutter clicks of phone cameras, but to me it all felt distant, muffled, like I was underwater. My hands trembled as I smoothed down the crease in my dress for the 10th time. Navy blue, long sleeves, nothing flashy, just safe, just invisible. Anna, my daughter, held my hand tight. She was bouncing with excitement, tugging at me every few seconds to point out the cake or the lights or the huge heart-shaped decoration behind the stage. I smiled, but my stomach was a knot. Khan, my younger brother, stood on stage beside Isla, his fiancée. He looked radiant, beaming, sharp in a cream sherwani, the family's pride. And Illa, she was gorgeous, like always, but her eyes, cold. They scanned the crowd like a queen sizing up her subjects, and when they landed on me, something in her expression shifted, tightened, as if I was a bug she'd just noticed under her shoe. Then it happened. Illa leaned in, whispered something to my mother. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw it. My mother's face didn't flinch. She nodded, that same curt nod she used when she made a decision about me without me. Then my mother turned. Her heels clicked against the marble as she made her way through the crowd. She didn't smile. She never did. Not for me. She stopped just inches away and leaned in. "Zoya," she said, her voice low, almost kind, which somehow made it worse. "Stay away from the stage, please. Ila doesn't want any bad luck near her today." Bad luck? That word pierced through me like ice. For a moment, I genuinely thought I misheard her. My mind scrambled for a better explanation, a joke, a misunderstanding. But her eyes were still, her lips pressed into a flat line. She meant every syllable. I blinked. "What?" "She's right," my mother added. "You've always had unfortunate timing. Let's not ruin today." My throat went dry. The room seemed to slow, as if time itself paused to see what I'd do. Around us, the laughter continued, the celebration unbothered, but I felt the heat of eyes turning, some pretending not to hear, others pretending not to care. I felt like I was shrinking. Why did it still hurt this much? After all these years, I should have been used to it by now. The silent blame for my father's accident, the way my failed marriage was whispered about at family dinners, even my miscarriages, each one met with the same tight-lipped silence, like it was contagious. I glanced at Khan. His eyes met mine, just for a second, and then darted away. That flicker of guilt, it cut deeper than any insult ever could. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My tongue felt glued to the roof of my mouth. I just nodded slightly, stepped back, and squeezed Anna's hand a little tighter. "Why can't we go up there, Mama?" she asked, her voice full of innocence. I crouched beside her, trying to keep my voice from breaking, because sometimes people don't understand what's special. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing the way she does when something doesn't make sense. She looked toward Illa, then at me, and in that tiny pause, something shifted in her expression, like she saw something she'd never seen before. And that's when I should have known Anna wasn't going to stay silent. I wasn't always the unlucky one, you know. There was a time, brief, blurry, when I was just Zoya, a quiet girl with big dreams and a louder laugh. But somewhere along the line, the world stopped seeing me, or worse, started seeing only what they wanted to see. I was 8 when my father died. A freak accident, head-on collision, rainy night, coming home from work. I remember my mother's scream. I remember the neighbors standing outside in silence. I remember clinging to Can, who was only 4, while everything else in my life shattered like glass around us. That was the first time I heard the word bad luck whispered behind my back. One of my aunties muttered it. He doted on her so much, spoiled her. Maybe it was fate. My mother didn't correct her. After that, I started noticing things. How my mother's warmth dimmed around me, how she looked at me with that same distant politeness she used on strangers, and how she lit up around Khan, her perfect son, the hope that survived the wreckage. I didn't resent him for it. Khan was sweet. He always tried to include me, especially when we were younger. But as we grew up, things shifted. He became the center, the protector, the pride. I was just the shadow. I married young, mostly to escape. He was kind at first, but after our second miscarriage, he changed. And after the third, he left. Quietly. No drama, just a text that said, "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." I stared at that message until the screen went dark. When Anna was born, she was a miracle I didn't expect. A stubborn, squalling, perfect baby girl who made me feel, just for a moment, that maybe I wasn't broken after all. The doctors had told me I wouldn't carry to term, but she proved them wrong. And of course, my mother's reaction. Cold. "I hope she doesn't grow up with your luck," she said, barely holding her for more than 5 seconds. I laughed it off, but inside, it stung. It always did. Now, here we were, all these years later, back under one roof, my brother's engagement. I told myself I'd just go, smile, keep to myself. No drama, just support. But the moment we walked into that venue, I felt it. The distance, the looks, the way people greeted me with that overly sweet voice they use when they're uncomfortable, like pity was perfume they sprayed before walking over. Uncle Rayhan, my mother's older brother, gave me a warm smile when we arrived. "Zoya, you look radiant," he said kindly, pulling me into a side hug, one of the few people who never treated me like a burden. Still, I stayed on the edges of the crowd, watching, listening, trying to stay small. Anna tugged on my hand constantly, wanting to explore. "Can I go near the cake, Mama? Just a look?" I nodded, trailing behind her. She ran ahead, twirling in her little blue dress. She was light, pure light, the only part of me untouched by bitterness. I should have known it wouldn't last. Because just an hour later, I'd be standing like a statue as my mother and Ila made it painfully clear I wasn't welcome on that stage, not even as a sister, not even as a guest. And in that moment, something cracked. Not loud, not public, just a quiet snap inside me, the kind that doesn't scream. It aches. I didn't know it yet, but something else was shifting too. Not in me, in Anna. And what happened next would silence the entire room. The stage was glowing under rows of fairy lights, gold and white, delicate, dreamy. Everything had been crafted to perfection. Even the petals on the floor seemed to know where to fall. I stood near the back of the hall, pretending to admire the decor. I wasn't really seeing anything, just hearing the faint echoes of what my mother had said. "Ila doesn't want bad luck near her today." The words looped in my mind like a cruel nursery rhyme. I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, arms crossed tight against my stomach. My palms were clammy. My heart hadn't stopped racing since she said it. Anna was now sitting on the edge of a chair beside me, swinging her legs and humming quietly to herself, completely unaware of what had just unfolded. Part of me wanted to just leave, but something stopped me. Maybe pride, maybe pain, maybe the fact that this was my brother's big day, and even if I was invisible to him, I still wanted to see him happy. The MC's voice cut through the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are moments away from the ring ceremony. Family, please gather toward the stage." Guests began moving, forming a semicircle. I instinctively took a step forward with the others. Then I saw it. Ila caught my movement. Her eyes locked onto mine with that same sharpness, then a slow smirk. She leaned in, whispering something to Can. He didn't look at me, just nodded, jaw clenched. That smile of hers, it wasn't just about the stage. It was a victory, like she'd won something. I stopped right where I was, frozen. In that moment, I felt like I was 8 again, hiding behind the sofa while adults decided my fate. "Why aren't we going?" Anna asked, standing and tugging at my sleeve. I crouched beside her, trying to keep my voice steady. "We'll watch from here, sweetheart." She frowned, confused. "But everyone's going, even the cousins." I swallowed hard. Sometimes we don't get to go where others do, and that's okay." It wasn't okay, not even a little. The guests gathered closer, phones came out, flashes popped. My mother stood proudly by Ila's side. She didn't even glance my way. Uncle Rihan lingered near the front row, looking back at me briefly, his eyes soft with something like apology, but he said nothing. Maybe he didn't know what to say, or maybe, like everyone else, he thought silence was safer. I didn't cry. I wouldn't give them that. But inside, I was unraveling. Why was I always the one they could ignore? Why did no one ever speak up for me? Why did Can look the other way, like I was something shameful to be hidden? I was his sister. I helped raise him when our dad died. I stayed up with him through exam stress, heartbreaks, nightmares, and now I wasn't even good enough to stand beside him on the happiest day of his life. My fingers dug into my palms so tightly I left crescent marks. I told myself to just breathe, just wait it out, let it pass. But Anna wasn't done. She climbed up onto her chair, staring hard at the stage. Then she whispered, "Mama, that lady is mean." I blinked, startled. "Anna, shh, don't say that." Her face was scrunched, thoughtful. "She said you bring bad luck, but you don't." And then, without warning, she hopped off the chair and started walking toward the front. I reached out, too slow. "Anna, wait." But she was already halfway there, her little dress swishing behind her. I had no idea what she was about to do, but in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, a flicker of fear and of hope. I stood there, frozen. The hem of Anna's dress disappeared between two rows of chairs as she marched her tiny body toward the front. My heart dropped to my stomach. For a second, the air felt thick, too heavy to breathe. I broke out of my daze and pushed through the crowd, whispering apologies as I tried not to draw attention, but eyes were already turning, heads tilting, murmurs starting. Anna reached the front of the stage. She wasn't rushing or hiding. She stood tall. Well, as tall as a 7-year-old can, looking up at the people towering around her. Khan, Ila, my mother, all staring down like she didn't belong there. I wanted to run, to scoop her up, to disappear before she said something that would make things worse. But then she did something I never saw coming. She walked right up to the microphone, my breath caught in my throat. "Anna," I hissed under my breath, too late, too far. Ila's hand shot out, like she might stop her, but hesitated. Khan looked confused. My mother's face dropped, her mouth parting slightly. And then it happened. Anna gripped the mic with both hands, looked up at the sea of faces staring down at her, and said in the clearest voice, "Can I say something about the bride?" The room went still, like a movie scene frozen. Every table, every mouthful, every phone mid-photo. Illa blinked, her expression faltering for the first time all evening. Maybe now's not." But Anna kept going, eyes locked ahead. "My name is Anna. I'm 7, and I want to talk about what I heard Auntie Illa say." My legs felt weak. I could barely stand. "Please don't, baby, please." She wasn't trembling. She wasn't even nervous. She looked calm, serious, like she'd rehearsed this in her dreams. She said, "My mama brings bad luck," her voice unwavering. "But that's not true. My mama is the best person I know." I couldn't move. "She takes care of me all by herself. She made me chicken soup when I was sick and read me stories when I had nightmares. She doesn't yell. She just hugs. She says love should be kind and quiet." Someone near me gasped. I don't know who. Anna looked straight at Illa now. "And you were mean. You didn't say it nicely. You didn't even look sorry." Illa's expression cracked, eyebrows raised, mouth stiff. I glanced at Khan. He wasn't blinking, just watching Anna like he'd never seen her before. "And you also said something else," Anna added, her voice dipping lower. "You said you didn't even like my Uncle Khan, that he was just a good match." A sharp inhale cut through the crowd like a knife. I saw someone lower their phone, eyes wide. Ila's cheeks flushed. She stepped forward quickly. "That's enough. She's a child." But no one moved, not even the MC, and suddenly, all that noise I used to fear, the whispers, the judgment, the pity, It vanished. The silence felt different now, charged. Because Anna hadn't just defended me. She'd challenged them. This little girl, with her ribboned braids and tiny voice, had pulled the thread holding their perfect image together, and the fabric was starting to unravel. I still couldn't believe it. My heart was pounding, my hands were trembling again, but not from fear this time, from something else. Pride. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for existing. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure: the silence was about to shatter. Anna stepped away from the microphone and stood in the center of that glittering stage, this tiny, defiant figure in a sea of adults, some stunned, others shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. No one spoke. The MC had lowered his mic. The photographer, bless him, had stopped clicking. I think even the chandelier lights felt dimmer. I was rooted to the spot, breath held tight in my chest. All I could do was watch. Isla looked like someone had just slapped her, lips parted, eyes wide, face draining of color. She glanced at Khan, as if expecting him to laugh it off or take control, but he didn't. He just stood there, mouth closed, shoulders rigid. His gaze flicked from Anna to Ila, and then slowly to me. And in that moment, something passed between us. He saw me, not as the burden, not as the shadow in the family photos, but as his sister, as Anna's mother, as someone who had been hurting silently for years. And maybe he saw how much it took not to crumble every time they blamed me for things I didn't cause. Then I saw my mother. Her arms were crossed, her face carefully blank, but her eyes gave her away. That tightness around the edges, that telltale twitch in her brow. She wasn't in control anymore. Uncle Rehan stood near the front, and he did something I didn't expect. He clapped just once, but it echoed. Then he stepped up, slowly walked toward the stage, and put his hand gently on Anna's shoulder. He bent down and whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but Anna nodded and smiled faintly, her tiny hand slipping into his. He turned to Ila next. I think the girl said what many of us were too polite to, he said, quietly but clearly. Maybe it's time we stopped pretending kindness is optional. The words landed like a stone in water. Ila looked mortified, her jaw clenched. This is ridiculous. She's a child. Children exaggerate. But Uncle Rehan didn't back down. Children speak truths adults are too afraid to face. Khan exhaled, long, slow. His voice was quiet when he spoke. Did you really say that about Zoya? Ila stiffened. It was a private conversation. You said it. His voice cracked, just barely. She didn't answer. He shook his head slowly. I can't do this, Ila. Not like this. My mother gasped, stepping forward. Khan, don't be impulsive. He looked at her, and his expression, God, I'll never forget it. I've been impulsive my whole life, he said, by staying quiet when I should have defended her. My knees gave a little. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. He turned to me then. Zoya, I'm sorry. It was just 2 words, but after a lifetime of silence, they thundered in my chest. Ila stepped back, her face hardening. You're making a mistake. Khan shook his head. No, I think I've been making them for years. He took off the engagement ring from his own finger, the one he was supposed to present, and gently set it on the stage beside Ila. The room was stunned. And then he walked over to me. He didn't say anything, just pulled me into a hug, tight, like he was trying to make up for every year he hadn't stood between me and the pain. And when he let go, he crouched down and pulled Anna into his arms too. I'm proud of you, he whispered to her. She grinned, that gap-toothed smile lighting up the room. And just like that, the silence shattered. But this time, it wasn't cruel. It was freeing. The next day, I woke up to a text from Khan. I hope you know how proud I am of you, Anna. I'm sorry it took me this long. I read it twice, then once more for good measure. My chest felt tight, not in a painful way this time, but in that strange, quiet way healing begins, like a wound realizing it's safe enough to start closing. It wasn't about the apology, really. It was about being seen. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible to my own family. I wasn't just the backdrop to someone else's celebration. Later that week, Khan came to visit. Just him, no Ela, no crowd. He brought pastries from my favorite bakery, something small, something thoughtful. We sat in the living room, Anna playing with her dolls on the floor while we talked. "I should have stood up for you a long time ago," he said. I didn't realize how deep it went until Anna said it out loud." I gave him a sad smile. "She has more courage at 7 than I had at 27. He shook his head. "She has your courage, she just didn't learn how to hide it yet." That hit something deep. I didn't cry, though I came close. Instead, I looked at my daughter, so bright, so full of light, and I realized something I hadn't dared to believe before. Maybe I wasn't cursed, maybe I was just different, and different scared people. A few days later, Uncle Rehan stopped by too. He brought me a potted jasmine plant, white blooms just beginning to open. "Something that grows quiet but strong," he said, "just like you." Even my mother, well, she hasn't said much, but she called. That alone was a miracle. She didn't apologize, not directly, but she asked if I was doing okay, if Anna needed anything. It wasn't much, but it was something. And in our family, something was progress. Anna, of course, doesn't fully grasp what she did. She just wanted to tell the truth, to stand up for her mom, to right something she knew instinctively was wrong. "Mama," she said one night while brushing her teeth, "are you proud of me?" I knelt beside her, looked into those wide brown eyes and whispered, "More than you'll ever know." She grinned, then added, "So I'm good luck." I laughed, for the first time in weeks, maybe months, really laughed, that kind that bubbles up from your chest and makes your eyes crinkle. "You," I said, pulling her into a hug, "are the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me." And it's true. Because here's what I've learned. Sometimes the people who carry the most pain also carry the deepest love. We move through life quiet, afraid to take up space, to disrupt, to be too much. But we are not too much. We are just enough for the people willing to see us fully. Anna taught me that. It's okay to speak up, that defending yourself isn't disrespectful, that love, real love, shows up, even if it takes a little longer than you hoped. So no, I'm not unlucky. I am unbreakable. And if being unbreakable made people uncomfortable, if it made them whisper or stare or look the other way, then let them. Because from now on, I will not shrink myself to fit in someone else's idea of acceptable. And thanks to one brave little girl, I will never again believe that love has to come with silence. It turns out I was never the one bringing bad luck. I was the one breaking the cycle. And that's the luckiest thing of all.